Hey, welcome to the Success with Soul Summit. I am your host, Gail West. I am so excited to have paradigm shifters Andrew Cameron Bailey and Connie Baxter Marlow on the Success with Soul Summit today. Andrew and Connie are visionary filmmakers, futurists, social philosophers, and inventors who envision a positive future for humanity. Coming from divergent life experiences, they have reached similar conclusions. The prevailing paradigm is missing important information about the nature of reality. They challenge a number of basic assumptions which have driven humanity's behavior for millennia. Connie and Andrew speak from a reality in which the following assumptions are absolute. We live in an infinitely conscious, loving, interconnected, and abundant universe where free will and the power of consciousness create the life we experience. Their uplifting vision is a bold synthesis of contemporary quantum science, indigenous cosmology, Eastern and Western mysticism, and plain common sense. They propose practical solutions to the dilemmas that face humanity throughout their climate restoration inventions and aligning the head and the heart to access higher frequencies. They foresee a complete, new, and unprecedented world, one of peace, harmony, and abundance, which has never before existed on Earth. They've co-authored the Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm, produced the film In Search of the Future, what do the wise ones know? And they are producers of the First 50 Years Project, which brings forth a new perspective on the synthesis between European colonists and the American Indian that gave birth to the American mind, spirit, and democracy. Welcome, Connie and Andrew. We're so happy to have you on the Success with Soul Summit today.
All right, it's our honor.
We're thrilled to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So I start every interview with the same question, and there's two of you, so you each get a chance to answer this. And that is, what is lighting up your life right now?
Whoa, all right.
Well, you go. You're lighting up my life, so yeah. You go ahead.
Well, what's lighting up my life is the magic that's happening, that's connecting all of us folks who are in a higher frequency, who see the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. And we've been connected through various relationships throughout our lives. It's just amazing, beyond the conscious mind, what's going on now, so that we can come together and bring peace on earth and heaven on earth.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add, Andrew, other than Connie's lighting up your life?
Aside from being on this show with you, Gail, thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Honestly, what's really illuminating my existence now is climate, of all things. I think an awful lot of people are truly distressed at the climate crisis that we're facing. And the fact is that I'm fired up because I'm actually an inventor, and I've got some ideas, and I'm accumulating a team, putting a team together and establishing a climate action community, if you will. And I'm excited. It's incredibly challenging. It's utterly necessary. And I'm excited. And that's got me all fired up.
He is fired up for this. I want to tell you what.
Well, we definitely need it.
It's his destiny path. His whole life has led him to this place.
So this, this is a different subject, Gail, but fundamental to the restoration of the climate of our planet is a shift in consciousness. And we do both of those. We see our work in the Trust Frequency as foundational to the boots on the ground climate work that we have to get together and do.
Well, it's interesting that you're saying that, Andrew, because that's one of the bigger motivations to having this Success with Soul Summit, is seeing how our current definition of success, which really promotes status, but consumption even more so, and how that is really eroding our souls, and also destroying the planet. So it's really an honor that you are working so hard also on behalf of our beloved Mother Earth.
And I feel that this whole climate crisis is to bring us to that place of love for the mother earth, for all the creatures, for all of creation, and that it's serving that purpose for us to come together and open our hearts and feel that love of those polar bears that are sitting there on that little bit of ice, for every tree that comes down in the Amazon burning. But it's for us to open our heart, that's the key piece. And I think your success with Soul Summit, helping people align with their hearts, understand that they are beloved, that's the success, is aligning with our hearts and bringing the true gift we promise to bring to the planet. And this series is aimed at doing that, and we're just thrilled to be able to contribute in that way.
Thank you. Well, we've kind of addressed why it's important to address and redefine success. So I want to move on to really looking at your book. And I met you at a gathering of indigenous elders and was very impressed with the book that you wrote, which I had a chance to read. And it's really a wonderful book for anybody who's listening. It's called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. And in that book, you're bringing really interesting ideas around exploring our fundamental assumptions of the nature of the universe. So share with us a little bit about what the essence of those assumptions are that apply to ourselves, and in particularly the world.
You know, I think it's worth prefacing that with what has actually put us in the position we're in today. And one rather simple way of putting it is we're running on false assumptions. So our entire worldview is based on fear and scarcity and competition and things like that. There's not enough, I'm not good enough, all of those things. And if those are our fundamental assumptions, guess what? We get the world we have created, because the outside world is a reflection of the inside world. So the real question is, can we actually go inside and examine those assumptions? And most of these assumptions we acquired as little 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. They were firmly ensconced in our unconscious before we even really became conscious in the analytical sense. So as adults, time to wake up, grow up, show up. And how do we do that? Can we change our assumptions?
Yeah, and also the whole scientific paradigm. I mean, it's not just our childhood, it's the schools, it's the science we learn in schools. Yeah. It's you better do well in school or you're not going to make it. If you don't go to the right preschool, you're out. In fact, once you understand the conscious, loving, abundant nature of the universe, how much it loves us, and that we came on a soul's journey to wholeness, and that we came to bring a gift to the world, and that the whole universe is awaiting that gift, we can make different decisions. Like, I allowed my 7-year-old son to drop out of school, out of first grade, because I knew he came with a gift, and that the energies on the planet would chase him around with a silver platter to give him the experiences he needs to become that gift. Now that's total trust. And that's what our book is about, to give people tools to walk in total trust, to actually walk it, do it, be it, not just say, oh yeah, I have to live in this real world, so I have to do this to show up for this real world. Well, guess what the real world is? The real world is the heart, the trust, the knowing that we came to have abundant life and that we have a gift to bring, and it's us.
So did you hear that? Connie is the proud mother of a first grade dropout.
Well, I'm curious as to why, if they found you, because that's not, I'm assuming that you homeschooled then.
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. So we're not going to go there. But
no, he just wouldn't homeschool either. And we were in Aspen, Colorado, and we were free to be. I actually enrolled him in a long distance school so he could be tracked through the system. But anyway, he's now a flourishing photographer in Los Angeles, connected with his heart. He's brilliant.
He's a beautiful writer, actor, musician, and he's as educated as anyone I know. And that's interesting. You know, he's actually a poster child for the trust frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
We wove in and out of the school system. Anyway, we lived our own life aligned with our knowing and with their destiny path. And once you have the tools to understand that, you don't have to show up to put a mask on, to show up to be something that you're expected to be. You can listen and watch circumstance, because circumstance loves us. In a conscious loving universe, we're not a victim of circumstance. We're loved by everything that happens in our lives. Every person, every word, every sign. This is indigenous. You know, watch the signs and act accordingly. So that's the gift we're bringing, is some tools to be able to trust and walk in total trust.
Well, I love that you're saying that, because I know that that's an issue that many people have. And this idea that, and this is one of my takeaways from living in China, that there's many, many ways to live a life. It's not just what we are told to expect or want or have or should do. And what you're saying is to trust that you'll be guided. So tell us more about that, because there's not a whole lot of people that can honestly feel comfortable with just letting go. So what are the things that you're talking about as far as how we do that? Can you share that with us?
Well, we have a construct on the nature of the universe, these 10 assumptions for a new paradigm, okay? So it's a whole construct on the nature of the universe that helps us understand how loved we are, okay? And it helps us understand what creates our reality. We create reality with the power of our consciousness. That's assumption number 4, I think. And you have something to say about the consciousness piece?
Okay. So really, Gail, it's really all about consciousness. And that's a buzzword these days. There's nobody who hasn't heard of consciousness, but
Right.
How many people can actually define consciousness or tell us what it is? Science has had a really difficult time with consciousness because it's really hard to measure. You can't build a machine or put a meter on it. It doesn't work that way. So what is consciousness? Psychology and psychiatry, you'd think, oh, they would know, but they've had a hard time too. And it's sort of been relegated to the role of the religions in the metaphysical realm, right? So what is consciousness? Well, if you go to the dictionary, it'll simply say, consciousness is awareness. Pretty much every dictionary you look at just says, it just gives you another word, awareness. Okay, so what's awareness? Oh, awareness is consciousness. Okay, that's kind of circular thinking, but it's true. If we're not conscious, we're not aware. If we're not aware, we're not conscious. So aware begins with the letter A. So we did a little exploration into the attributes of consciousness. What is human consciousness composed of? What are my tools of consciousness? And it turns out that there are many, but we identified 7, starting with awareness, and they all coincidentally in the English language begin with the letter A, so we call them the 7 A's. You want to tell us about the 7 A's?
Yeah, so that's human consciousness. Universal consciousness to us is all that is.
That's the universe.
It's the universe, it's all that is. And that's a whole nother discussion, but we want to give people tools for how they can align with their hearts and trust a loving universe. So what we want to help people understand is what creates our reality, what creates the life we live. And what we want to say is also that the different frequencies have different laws, okay? So this ball game that we're playing in is a lower frequency. It's a frequency based on scarcity and separation, okay? Right. So we've created a whole bunch of systems that are based in that frequency and with those laws, those man-made laws, okay? I learned about man-made laws from Wallace Black Elk, one of the great Lakota elders. When he first said that, I'm like, man-made laws? Isn't that all there is? No, there are universal laws that the native people call original instructions. Okay, so how do we align with universal law? How does the universe work? Well, it's all frequency, it's all energy, it's vibration. So what causes and creates our reality through our vibratory level? Okay, that's how we access different realities, just us personally. It doesn't matter what our twin sister's doing or what the rest of creation is doing, because we have control over our frequency and our reality. So here's a tool for every day, anytime, every day, one can check in with their 7 A's of consciousness. Okay, 7 aspects of consciousness that begin with A.
The letter A.
Okay, so we've put them in a sentence, one sentence. So I'm gonna say the sentence, and I'll do it slowly so we can catch each A, but here it goes. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because we don't know what's in that other frequency, okay? In a higher frequency. The abundance that lives there is beyond our ability to comprehend. Jesus showed us with the loaves and the fishes, you know, the feeding the multitudes and having 40 bushel baskets left over. You know, that's the abundance that lives in a higher frequency. And I know Native people who can access that, have never-ending pots of soup. You know, this reality that we think is real isn't. So that's our tools for.
Okay, so can you please say that again, because that's really powerful. I mean, I'm so loving the fact that you are on this the summit, because this is exactly what we're talking about, is deconstructing the old paradigm of success, which to me is so insidious. It's almost like we're these fish swimming in the sea and we don't even know that we're in the water. And because it's so much a part of what we perceive as real. So I love, it's like when people are, oh, you live in the real world, you go to school, that's not the real world. I'm like, well, what world is it? And to kind of deconstruct the world that we're told we're supposed to have, or this is reality. And what you're saying is that's based on a paradigm that is lack and not enough. And what was the other thing that you said, Andrew? Because this is exactly true.
Separation.
Separation, unworthiness,
yes.
on and on.
Yes, 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 yes. And what you're inviting is to consider that it's possible to have a life where you define success on your own terms and you co-create with the divine. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have anything you want to say on that?
On the subjects of success, you know, I think we've been conditioned to believe that success, it has to do with material stuff. It has to do with, you know, there are physical aspects as well, like I'm the best athlete or I am the best surfer or swimmer or whatever it might be. But mostly it's come to be who's got the most money and who's got the best car and who's got the most gorgeous, speaking as a man, the most gorgeous young lady, stuff like that. And these are the attributes of success that we've taken to our whole society is based on that. Mm-hmm. And it's become very competitive. It's very, I'm English and we have this expression, you know, keeping up with the Joneses. You know, the Joneses get a new car. We've got to get a better new car, on and on. And that is driving a world that is, it's actually, as we now well know, that is a form of suicide. So what is success? Success really has to do with how much love you bring into the world. If my measure of success is my relationships, the love I have in the world, really, that's it. And if I can inspire anybody or light them up in any way or just be there for them, put a smile on their face, that's success for me.
Mm-hmm. And the whole thing with being the best athlete or the best this or that. I mean, I remember I was a ski racer, and as long as I was in the top 3, I was fine. You know, I mean, I didn't have to be the best, you know, as long as I, you know, could, you know, so it's just a matter of having fun and following your heart, doing what your heart tells you to do and what circumstance tells you to do. Do nothing out of fear. Fear is a low vibration. Fear, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be loved. I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to get the girl. You know, all those things are fear-based. And what we have to do is walk in trust, and then our life unfolds in magical ways. That's how we access the magic, because the universe wants for us more than we can fathom. Okay, so we get stuck in these all these goals, and I have to make this and I have to do that, when in fact the universe wants more than we can even imagine, and it has to give us what we ask for. So if we ask for out of a goal to achieve this or that, we are actually restricting the loving universe from giving us more than we can fathom.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because you're not saying don't dream, and you're saying dream and dream.
Don't strive, right?
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Bold, committed action.
Be what you came here to be. Be the
Mm-hmm.
best you possibly can be. Discover your passion. Discover what you're good at. Discover what lights your fire, and go there and do that. And be the best at it. But if you're only the second best or the third best, then just love and admire these ones who are better at something than I am. You know, growing up, I was pretty good academically. I'm a scientist, and in high school, we just had, there was one person who was utterly impossible to beat. So it was this British colonial high school situation. It was very competitive. And there was rugby and cricket, and really, really competitive. I didn't play those games. I was a spear fisherman, which again was a competitive, but again, it wasn't about, you know, you went out and it was luck of the draw, what you came back to the beach with. And in the academic sense, you know, I had this absolute genius who was impossible to beat. And as I learned to know who this young man was, he became my teacher. And anytime I had a question, he was there for me. He was a beautiful, beautiful teacher. He ended up the head of a college in Canada, dean of the Department of Faculty of Chemistry, I think, you know? So he was a good teacher, and I knew that when he was 15 years old.
And for me in school, I just wanted to stay on the honor roll so that people would stay off my back. And so as long as I got B's, I didn't care if I got an A in one test and a D in the next. You know, I just, you know, wanted to be free, and so nobody could hassle me. And
yeah.
So,
but you're talking about outer motivations, you know, as opposed to these kind of deep intrinsic motivations, which is what you're inviting people to shift into, which is something was like, what's going to feed your soul? What's going to allow your magnificence to shine? What's going to bring your joy and delight to your heart? And then invite money to be an agent for good. We're not saying that you don't want to allow money to be supportive of you, because money is part of how we operate in the world. But to drive ourselves to do something that isn't aligning with our joy and delight is what you're saying is, no, that's not of a high vibration, and that's not where your soul is wanting to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having money. That's the important thing to people to know. And having an abundant life is key. We came to have abundant life. We did not come to work to survive. Okay, as far as I understand, we came here to give our gifts and receive more than we can fathom. There's a whole nother ball game. There's a party going on. We're all invited. We just don't know how to get there. And in that other frequency, there's more than anyone can fathom. So there's nothing to fight over. There's no power and control over others because I have more than you do. The whole ball game shifts, okay? Mm-hmm. This is not the only game in town.
In fact, in the higher frequencies, as Connie just said, Jesus has this miracle, so-called miracle, that he pulled off, feeding the 5,000 with what? 2 loaves and 5 fishes or something.
I don't know.
That is so cool.
It's so cool. He just showed us, and
so
we're not religious.
So the question is, if that is true, even on a metaphorical level, if that is true, where did those fish and those loaves come from? Well, science tells us that we live in a universe where only roughly 4% of it is material. We can only detect 4%. 96% is dark matter or dark energy. That's a very large percentage of the actual universe that we can detect in other ways, but we can't actually see it, can't get our hands on it, can't measure it directly. So what if it's possible, even spiritually, to engage with that dark matter, that 96% of the universe that we can't see and we don't believe in because we're materialists. And so if it's not material, so materialists believe in the 4% of the universe. We believe in the 100% of the universe. What does that mean? It means that perhaps there really is unlimited abundance, as opposed to we live on this planet with these restricted resources and we have to fight and compete for that. What if that's not it at all?
You see, and that's antithetical to the whole climate question, okay? So we're talking different frequency, different ball game, different reality, completely. And that's what the climate crisis is meant to do, is to take us there, where we choose out of free will to open our hearts, give our money away. Hoarding is ridiculous in a higher frequency. So you just stop, because you've moved from scarcity into abundance. You're like, what am I doing with all this money? I'm just going to give it away. So to me, the earth is moving into a higher frequency. So all those fear-based behaviors are breaking down. All those fear-based systems that haven't been aligned, they're all breaking down. And we're moving into our hearts and into this place of ease and generosity and kindness and effortlessness. All this, the exact opposite of what we've been taught we have to do to show up to survive.
So how would you describe, and we were using words that maybe people don't, that they don't completely understand. I mean, we use them a lot, like frequency, vibration. How would you describe the difference between a lower frequency or higher frequency, or what just exactly is it? In your definition, what is a frequency or a vibration, vibratory level?
All right, let's go back to the 1960s. There was a band called the Beach Boys. Remember that one? And
I totally do.
Remember that song?
Yes, yes.
That's precisely the answer. There's a difference, and we know it in our bodies. We know the difference between good vibrations and bad vibrations. We know the difference between a higher state of consciousness and a lower state of consciousness. We know the difference. It feels different to be in fear and anxiety. It's different from being in trust. So that's what this work is about. It's about learning to operate from a vibrational level of trust. And we simply intuitively know the difference. And we can shift that. We can absolutely control our vibratory state on a sort of a sliding scale from all the way. If we put our attention on some of the scary news and the terrible things that are happening, it tends to take us down. We end up down there in that lower vibratory realm. And it's not easy to stay in the high place. It's worth going down there and see what's going on, but you better come back up here to where it's beautiful and we can live out of the state of, it's really about the difference between fear and trust. And once we're in a state of trust, and we simply know the difference, it's really kind of not something you can measure. Again, there are no machines that will measure whether you're in the trust frequency or not. The Institute of Heart Math in California can measure a lot of things, including our spiritual or vibratory state, how open our heart is, how much love. You can almost measure the heart or the love vibration. And I think we can tell the difference, actually using technology, we can actually tell the difference if we had somebody all wired up. But that's not the point. We're already wired up. We already know we're born with it. We know the difference. But we've got ourselves sort of seduced by a set of beliefs that were imposed on us by little kids. We didn't know any better. Our parents didn't know any better. Our priests and ministers, our school teachers didn't know any better. So we've created this reality, and we can change that by sliding ourselves up the scale to a higher vibration, what the Beach Boys called a good vibration.
But I'd like to move back to what you mentioned as far as trust, because I know that many people really struggle with trust. So people who've had trauma in their childhood, their trust has been eroded, who have religious trauma around, I was just talking to somebody the other day that, just the word God for many people has a lot of trauma around it just because of how they were raised. So how do we heal the parts of us that are afraid to trust or that had our trust eroded, to be able to shift into what you're talking about, which is believing that there is a beneficent universe, or being able to trust into the idea of a beneficent universe?
You want to address that?
Yeah. So how we address that, and it's key to the personal work that we came on the planet to do. Okay, what we say is that we gave an overarching act of free will to come on the planet on our soul's journey to wholeness with a gift and a purpose. Okay, so on this journey to wholeness, it's about our journey to alignment with our divinity. Okay, there are parts of ourselves that we have not come into alignment, we don't own. And those are the parts of self-doubt and self-hatred and not enough and I'm bad and wrong. So we come into a family, we actually choose our family. Okay, this is a construct, this is an understanding of the nature of the universe that we believe is so, that we choose our family, and so that that family, the people in that family will give us the experiences, the wounds we need to come to work with through our life, so that we will ultimately transmute those wounds into our self-love. Okay, so what we're in this construct, everything that's happened in our lives has happened for us, not to us. So these religious beliefs, these traumas, these abandonments, this physical abuse, in this construct, we chose those experiences for ourselves to come into alignment with our self-love. Okay, it's because in this construct on the nature of the universe, there is in fact only love, absolutely only love. So one has to access this understanding and to let go of victim and perpetrator, to move into beyond duality, beyond right and wrong, and that's what we do with this construct. Okay, it's a huge leap, okay, because we're stuck in the victim perpetrator, poor me, I'm traumatized, the trauma is very real, and it needs to be worked with and needs to be transmuted. But it's the trauma we came here to get, so that we could transmute it into self-love and self-knowing and into alignment with our divinity. So that's what we're right now working on, a course called Dance of Souls, where for an online course that shows that we actually magnetize, our soul actually asks for certain behaviors from others to show us those wounds, to create those wounds, to show them to us throughout our lives, those repetitive circumstances and behaviors like that keep coming forth. That's out of love, to show us that we don't love ourselves yet. There's still a piece that we have not aligned with, because we promise to bring our true self, all of us, to this party. And so the whole creation is showing us the parts that we're not bringing.
So how do we shift? How do we shift? Because I think what you're saying is that there is choice, and that for those of us today, I truly believe that those of us today who chose to be on this planet chose to be part of the shift of the new paradigm. So all the things that we know today that they didn't have 100 years ago, you didn't, you know, all people had was Freud. and that wasn't all that great. But today there are tools and there are knowings, and we have quantum physics, and we have what you're talking about, which is really understanding the universe as a beneficent place. So do you have any like little tips for our audience that's going to help them even not necessarily totally trust, but lean into trust?
You know,
to try trust out? Just try it.
Really, in 4 words, we can say, trust the loving universe. Think about that, trust the loving universe. That is exactly the same as saying trust God, because they're not different. Humans have sort of created this sort of authoritarian, judgmental God. That's the problem with people who have what you just described as religious trauma. That is not God. That is not the loving universe. So once you know that we live in a loving an unconditionally loving universe that loves us no matter what, it's like being in the womb of one's mother. Could you ever doubt that your mother loved you when you're in her womb? That's how it actually is in the universe. But we emerge and we come into this pretty tough at times human experience.
Yes.
And to learn to trust the process, to learn to trust absolutely everything, even the things that you would never have chosen, even the things that look terrible, diseases, deaths, the loss of a loved one, whatever it might be, to trust that and to trust the process and to trust that it's actually leading somewhere that's actually evolutionary. We're going somewhere. It's not necessarily better, because what does better mean? It's simply growth, it's evolutionary growth, and it's a spiritual thing. And once we really get that deep sense of personal trust, I think well, for me personally, it changed everything. No matter what happens, I have to trust that. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes I go, no, I don't want that. And then you just sort of go, okay, trust the loving universe. And you sort of almost relax into it. You let go into it. And there's something about just those 2 words, just trust.
Just trust.
What do we have? Do we make a t-shirt or something?
We have a button.
We got a button that says just trust. But it's that simple. It's 2 words, just trust. And that's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that if you say these words to someone who's in the victim stage, they cannot accept them. No, it's outside. It's that person over there. It's that person who abused me, or that person who did whatever. You know, we're constantly looking for someone to blame. But if we're staying in that lower vibration of blame and shame and victim, we're in trouble. And a lot of humans are in serious trouble. And for us, the way out is trust.
And from my understanding, the earth is moving into a higher frequency. Okay, so if we want to stay with her and go with her, we have to do the work into self-love. Okay, and these are some tools for getting there. The victim, feelings of victim are a lower frequency. We've got to move into knowing that we are loved by a conscious, loving universe that takes our frequency up, so we can stay with Mother Earth as she moves into a higher frequency. So that's what our book is about, is to give people tools. And this is from indigenous cosmology and quantum science, as you noted in the beginning, and Eastern and Western mysticism and plain common sense. It's so many people say to us, you know, your book articulates something that I've always known, I just never had the words for. Okay, this is our true nature. It is the true nature of the universe. It's not an overlay. It's accessing our own knowing, our own destiny, and what wants to happen on this planet, and what we're doing for all of creation. We're actually, in my understanding, we're actually doing this work of moving through separation, fear, all this stuff for all of creation. It's like a little job. Okay, the consciousness of love said, okay, we've got work to do. We've got to cleanse out these aspects of the love of all that is everything. because it's all love. God is love. Love. So God is love. God is everything. Therefore, everything is love. And we're, we mentioned that God word, but we're not religious at all. This is the nature of the universe. So anyway.
So can you give us that sentence again?
Sure.
Expanded awareness. Yeah. So let's just kind of come back to that, because I think that's really
okay. And it's important to listen to each word, not just the A word, but the words that precede the A word. Okay. I just realized that saying it this time so slowly. Right. So those words are key as well.
Let's say it again.
Okay. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams. And that allowing piece is key.
The letting go part.
The letting go.
It's the trust. It's the trusting part.
Right. That trust.
Trust that the universe.
That darn trust thing.
Sorry about that. Darn it, because we got to do it. We actually have to walk it, to put our body into that frequency, into that grocery line where we're going to run into the person who's going to give us the job that we always wanted and didn't even know we wanted. See, this stuff beyond what we know we want, because we think we have to succeed in this ball game. So the whole law of manifestation and the secret and everything is true. It showed us how much power we have. We can manipulate the unified field. But from our perspective, why would we? Because it wants more than we can fathom, and it loves us so much, it can only give us what we ask for. So we're asking from this lower frequency, so we stay enmeshed in this lower frequency, climbing the ladder and getting the stuff and saying, oh yeah, now I'm successful. Now I've got how many likes on Facebook and now I'm whatever. Okay. No. Okay. It's how much have I aligned with my heart and brought my gifts to the party? What's my gift? I'm a musician. I'm a poet. I'm everything Daddy never doesn't respect and never wanted me to be. But guess what? Circumstance is going to take me there because I promise to bring that gift to the party, no matter what Daddy thinks. And I incarnated to Daddy so he could give me that shame so that I could move through that shame to be who I truly am. You see what I mean? You know, oh, don't be a poet, don't be a writer, you'll never make any money, and you'll never fit into this family. Well, we incarnated into that family to have that person say that because we had self-doubt in the first place. It's a beautiful dance if we can understand it as that.
That's beautiful. So I know that you have a gift that you're giving to our audience. Do you want to share what that is?
I don't have it here.
Can I say a very quick thing about quantum science?
Oh, of course, Andrew.
It's very foundational to this whole conversation. And really, there are two things that we have learned in the last roughly 100 years from quantum science. The first one's called the observer effect. For anybody who's heard of that or anybody who's really studied it, and I'm a science guy and I studied that back in college. And didn't really get it until I was actually doing an anthropology degree, and I was studying the Australian Aborigines, and I realized they understood quantum science far better than I did, or even my professor. So the observer effect means that by putting our attention on something, we bring it to life, we create it. In the absence of an observer, it's impossible to prove that anything exists, including the entire universe. Okay, interesting, challenging, counterintuitive. So what does that mean? It means that the power of our consciousness actually creates our reality. That's key to this trust frequency work, to know that it is our consciousness. That's why we put our attention in the high, it's just that film, what was it called? What the Bleep Did We Know?
Oh yeah, I fell asleep during that.
Oh, you did? I saw it 6 times and loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
The point is though that where we put our attention is it actually creates the world we experience. So that's one part of it. The second quantum revelation, if we could call it that, is the phenomenon of entanglement, of quantum entanglement. It is absolutely provable scientifically that we are all completely, inextricably interconnected. So if we are all interconnected, if I harm you, I'm harming myself. If I love you, I'm loving myself. If I change things for the better for my dog, I'm changing things for the better for the whole universe. So the fact of the interconnectedness of all things, which the spiritual masters have said forever, and the fact that through the observer effect, it is our consciousness, our individual consciousness, we're extraordinarily powerful. And once we get together, like Jesus said, when two or more are gathered, that is a phenomenon. When there have been recent experiments where 4,000 people meditated on the city of Washington, D.C. in the summertime and just sent love, and the crime rate plummeted. It's extraordinary. It's crazy. There's IONS, Institute of Noetic Sciences, doing experiments like that. So fact is, our consciousness, our thoughts are incredibly powerful, and we're all completely, totally connected, and we live together in a conscious, loving universe. And there's nowhere else to be. I don't know how you would leave if you say, I don't want to live in a conscious, loving universe. I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know where that somewhere else is. And that something is composed entirely of love. And love's not just holding hands and how I feel about my grandson. Love is actually a quantum energy. It is that which creates and sustains all that is. So we are literally in love because it's all there is. There's nothing outside. You can't go there. There's no escape. We are in love, and we've forgotten that. And if we can remember that, that actually changes everything. That's what.
So I understand that you have a gift for our audience. Do you want to describe that? It's on your speaker page, to those who are listening.
We say that life is a treasure hunt, and we're offering clues. So what our gift is a variety of clues for the treasure hunt that is life. So when people sign for it, they get these 4 weeks of clues, 4 different sets of clues to the nature of the universe and our place in it.
In what form do they take?
Well, PDFs, the downloadable PDFs they can print and put on their fridge.
Frame it and put it on in your living room.
Yeah. So do you give people the answer at the end of the 4 weeks?
Well, they have to buy the book and figure it out for themselves, because everybody has a different reality. Everybody has free will to choose what their reality is. We're just giving some tools. It just depends where people are at in their evolutionary upward spiral and their soul's journey to wholeness.
So it's a part of what you're saying. It's an invitation to go a little bit deeper into what you're describing, which is the trust frequency, and to really begin to understand it and to try it out. Am I right? To give it a try and see what happens.
Like the metaphor of life as a treasure hunt. Everybody loves a treasure hunt.
Yes.
And so we offer you a clue, and think about that spelled CLU, conscious loving universe. So there's
I love it.
Secret in there. So.
Yes. So any last words of wisdom? This has been really wonderful. Thank you so much, Andrew and Connie, for being on the Success with Soul Summit. You've really addressed the issue in a very, very profound and deep way. But any last words of wisdom for our audience before we end?
Yeah, thank you for putting it that way. That's it's, as I said at the beginning, this is an honor. We're very, very pleased to be speaking to your audience, your friends. And I just have 4 words to say, and they are, once again, trust the loving universe. Just if it
abundant
gets hard,
universe.
Okay.
Trust
5
the loving,
words. Trust the loving,
abundant universe.
Okay.
Know that it is abundant.
So at times when we're feeling an absence of abundance, how am I going to pay the mortgage or the rent? All right. Okay. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up and you're in that marvelous state known as worry. Trust the loving universe. It's the best mantra I know.
And the universe shows up in extraordinary ways. So, and they don't come in the form of money in the bank per se. They come in the form of many different extraordinary ways that we've experienced in our decades of walking this in this frequency.
And having written the book, we now have to walk the talk, and it's really interesting. Putting this trust frequency, you know, you could say, oh, that's all theoretical, that's not real, how do you prove it? Well, we prove it by walking it. And it's extraordinary, over and over and over again. Just when you think, oh, is it even possible? Like that little niggle of doubt comes in, and then, nope, real.
Yes, it is possible. Anything is possible.
I was saying, is it possible that it's going to let us down?
Nope. No, it's not going to let us down.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it's a very fascinating journey in the trust frequency. It's where the magic lives, and you just got to know and trust it and walk it and be it, and just know that we each came to Earth with a gift and a purpose. And the universe desperately wants that gift, which is our true selves. And we have a job to do, and that is to go into those places of self-doubt and release them into the universe and say, guess what? I am a magnificent roving sensory organ of the divine, and I am, every bit of me is here as a gift. And then you'll bring the true essence of one will bring the true essence of oneself to the party, which we promised to do.
And when we're able to do that, we will have a world where all will flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we'll be in a higher frequency,
right?
And scarcity doesn't exist there, and all this whole ball game changes. So, and that's our contribution to the collective. When we get there and we keep our attention there, we're actually shifting the collective. We're shifting all of creation into that higher frequency.
Yeah, and it's really important to recognize that when we do our own healing, we're doing it also on behalf of our family. We're doing it on behalf of all of those other ones that just support the release and make it easier and easier for those who come after us. So it's a gift not only for us, but it's a gift for our family. It's a gift for the rest of the world. And the two of you are an amazing gift to the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, your brilliance, your wisdom. And again, this is Connie and Andrew. And their book is called, what's the name of your book again?
The Trust Frequency.
It's a long title.
10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm.
Okay, the Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm.
So by changing certain of our fundamental misbeliefs, we then find ourselves living in a completely different paradigm. Paradigm's just a set of assumptions, that's all it is.
Change your assumptions and the world changes with you.
So Connie Baxter Marlow and Andrew Cameron Bailey, thank you again so much for your presence on the Success with Soul. It was such a joy.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail, for doing this. You're the gift to give us a voice. So it's such an important role you're playing from your wisdom.
And I'm your host, Gail West.